Trigger warning. This podcast episode contains sensitive content, including discussions of suicide intention.
How you feel at any given moment determines the specific chemicals get released in your body immediately, which determines how you feel in the next second and whether your next thought will be positive or negative. So you, in essence, have the key to your own happiness right inside you.
Welcome to the Core Happiness Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Banks, a mindset and positive psychology coach. On this podcast, we discuss all things related to creating happiness from within. So let's do it. Welcome back to Core Happiness. Today, we are joined by Virginia Oman, a powerhouse wellness expert, licensed mental health therapist, and life coach. Her journey from despair to dream life is nothing short of inspirational and extraordinary, proving the effectiveness of her transformative methods. Recognized by Holistic Life as Trauma Coach of the Year in 2023, Virginia brings a unique blend of holistic expertise through her journey and her focus on positive psychology. She's not just a therapist. She's an acclaimed author and speaker, and she's here today to share more practical tips for how we can have a powerful mind and body connection, as well as tools to living a joyful life. So, Virginia, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. It's my honor. And Casey, thank you for all the work that you do. We're both in the special niche of helping people to live better lives and with more joy and fulfillment. So thank you for your work.
Thank you for saying that. So I want to start with just having you share more about your personal journey, especially overcoming the hopelessness and despair to living the life of your dreams and getting into the work that you do.
Okay. It's a pretty intense story. I was a happy camper and life was going on, but in the midst of graduate school, I started experiencing extreme symptoms of what turned out to be MS, but nobody could correctly diagnose it in the town I was in. They had no idea what was going on, even though the symptoms were classic.
Oh, wow.
So that's crazy making for you, when you're having triple vision and you can't walk because you're so dizzy and one of your legs is numb, weird things like that. And fortunately, I had taken enough anatomy and physiology in college to know that I was pretty sure this was neurological stuff, but it took months before somebody correctly diagnosed me, and they were so competent, they got it right away. So fast forward on this journey. MS was relatively kind to me for about the first 15 years. And then because it's a progressive disease, it started to catch up and do its thing. And in 2023, I was diagnosed with secondary progressive MS, which means there are no more remissions. You just do a steady decline. So I listened to what the medical profession was advising and following their course and taking their medications and taking their chemotherapy drugs and some pretty intensive things that was not so great for my body. But I listened to them and I watched as my body just deteriorated right in front of me to the point where I ended up in a wheelchair, couldn't walk, couldn't make it through the day because I had no energy, had to give up work. And because I could no longer work, I couldn't afford my home. So I'm losing my career that I love. I lost my home and it was horrible. There's so many losses, one after the other with MS. So it kept getting worse and worse. And I thought, boy, I was looking ahead to my future and I thought, based on the path that it's doing now, it didn't appeal to me. And I thought, I don't want that reality, no freedom, no ability to participate in all the activities I love so much. So I really considered exiting out and I had everything ready to go. And it wasn't because I didn't want to live. It was because I wanted to live a life where I could participate in life like I was and have all the joys that I was used to having. I didn't want to just be breathing, taking up space on the earth. So now here I was in a wheelchair, destitute. And at the very last minute, a voice inside me turned out to be my intuition, came into my head and it said, do what your body wants to do. And I thought to myself, well, I have nothing left to lose. So I decided to listen to it and I honored that voice. And I knew exactly what my body wanted to do because I was a long distance runner. I love to move. I was very active, but everything in the medical profession was saying, don't do those. So I hadn't been, but I'm an athlete. And so I wanted to do those kind of movements. And so I listened to the voice and I just brainstormed and I thought outside the box and I put it down and I developed my own wellness plan treatment, even though it sounded so far-fetched and so ridiculous. I developed that on my own and I started in the water because I couldn't walk, couldn't run. The water was my only hope. But when I got in the pool, my legs weren't even strong enough to kick. So I couldn't get from one end of the pool to the other. So I developed my own body stroke. It's a stroke that turns out to be an absolutely exhausting stroke, but it worked for me. It was kind of an underwater body dolphin maneuver that uses the torso. And if anybody goes onto my website, they'll be able to see that stroke demonstrated. But it's slowly, I mean, at a turtle's pace. And I started there and I kept at it and I refused to give up. Did I see results right away? No, I did not. It was laborious. It was frustrating. It was exhausting. But I refused to give up because I wanted to live.
Wow, that is so amazing and inspiring. So how long did it take until you started to see results?
Finally, after about 4 weeks, I noticed I started to have more energy. And that's huge for a person with MS, because that's usually the first thing that it takes away is a person's energy. Like so many people with MS having to take naps just to get through the day. Well, I started not having to do that as much. That was a huge milestone for me. So I kept at it. I thought, if this is the reason this is happening, I'm going to keep going. And I did. And I kept going. And then my legs started to come back and I started to be able to kick. So then I was able to use all the strokes. I could do breaststroke, side stroke, and it's called the wonderful compound effect. Small changes done consistently, small steps, tiny, done consistently over time will take you to an entirely new place. And I ended up being able to swim and swim and swim more, and eventually swimming now over an hour a day of continuous lap in the pool. And, it's not that you need to do that kind of extreme form. That's just me. That's what I love. But the point of the whole thing is don't give up. Find your why, your big WHY, and go for it. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Yeah, such an amazing story. I know one of the things you said too, like your doctor said that you would never be able to ride a bike again. And then now that's something that you're able to do.
Yeah, that was after I started being able to walk again and started to be able to work again. And then I thought, I'm doing so great by implementing all these things. And it wasn't just the physicality. I was applying my own principles of the mind-body connection, which I have been a firm believer in it before, even before the term mind-body was even invented. So I know those powerful effects of what we think determines how we feel.
Right.
And that determines our behavior, what we'll choose to do next.
Yeah.
It's quite phenomenal. But getting back to the bike, I thought, I want to be able to ride a two-wheel bicycle again. Well, what do you need in order to ride a two-wheel bike successfully? You need balance, and MS takes that all away.
Right.
And so my friends said, don't do it. You're crazy. They were very concerned. My neurologist told me it was impossible. Don't even try. But again, I listened to my intuition and I developed a plan. And it took me 11 and a half months of working at this every day. I had to start in a baby child's bike I couldn't even lift my legs high enough to get my feet to the pedals. But I started, I devised a plan, I kept going. 11 and a half months later, I was able to ride a two-wheel bicycle again.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and it's just all about having that vision, developing a plan, keeping the faith of believing, because we are, as you know, we are absolutely limitless.
I 100% believe that as well. And I actually want to talk about that because a lot of what you do in terms of your expertise goes back to positive psychology. It goes back to mental health therapy, life coaching, the personal training, wellness, all of your areas of expertise. And I'm wondering, when you think about just spanning across all those different areas, how did you discover the harmonious blend of these disciplines into your transformational journey? I mean, the fact that you came up with your own plan is amazing, but it seems like you have a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas that allowed you to come up with that. And I'm wondering how you discovered how that blend works.
Yeah, I discovered it because all these things worked for me. And it was interesting. After I got so successful in the pool, I started adding weightlifting and then bodybuilding into my regime. I decided I'm going to check out going to personal training school. And I applied to the most prestigious, the National Academy of Sports Medicine, and went through their training, and I got so much knowledge and wisdom from that. And I decided at one point to see if I could apply for just part-time. And I got hired right away
Oh,
and
wow.
started working with clients, and then ended up not only working for elite gyms, but also the YMCA. I've been a worker for the YMCA for, over 10 years. So I love giving that back. In my wellness training, when I'm working with people either on developing their body more, I also bring in some mind body suggestions for them to work on what's going on internally in their own mind with perhaps some negative self statements that they're subscribing to. And so I kind of work it holistically. And then with my mental health clients who come to me, I always prescribe movement. I prescribe specific forms of exercise and movement, and I explain why, and it has amazing effects. It is a panacea, really, for depression and anxiety. So I combine it all. The one thing I wanted to do was share it with other people so that nobody had to ever get to that point of despair, to the point where they wanted to exit out of life. Because I knew when you have no hope, that's the worst state to be in. So I wanted to give back. And that's what I've been doing now. That's my whole career.
I absolutely love that. The mind body connection is such a powerful thing, and it's such an amazing topic. And I know a lot of people don't understand really how much your mind and your body are connected. So, can you elaborate on the importance of how a mind to body connection can play a role in just our overall health and even your personal transformation?
Sure. Decades and decades and centuries ago, we used to think the mind and the body were two separate things. And it's really not been until recently in our geologic time that we've changed that. And now science, all forms of science, proves it. The mind and the body are one entity, and they influence each other and work continuously every second of every day. So every second of your waking life, the mind-body connection is at work. So what I remind people is, unless you have the flu or the cold or something like that, how you feel at any given moment is determined directly by the thoughts you were just thinking. Which then, whatever thought, positive or negative, determines the specific chemicals get released in your body immediately, which determines how you feel in the next second. And then that determines whether your next thought will be positive or negative. So you, in essence, have the key to your own happiness right inside you. And it's amazing to even think about, but this is our freedom. This is our ticket. This can change your entire life.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things I talk about a lot on the podcast is that our thoughts are energy, scientifically proven.
That's
Right.
right.
So I also talk about different techniques that Pam Grout talked about in her book E Squared, but it actually shows that when your thoughts are negative, it's a completely different energy force field around your body than when your thoughts are positive. And that force field and the energy that you're emitting affects you all the way down to your cells. So you actually are affecting your body by your thought.
It does. And it affects all the people who are around you as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to link to your guide, Secrets to the Powerful Mind Body Connection, because it's just so intriguing. It's a topic I absolutely love. But what can listeners expect to discover in the guide? And can you give any type of examples on tips that they'll get?
The main thing is to make sure that you really know what the heck that connection is.
Mhm.
So many people say, oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, I know about the mind body. But if I ask them, if I stop them and say, explain it to me, what is that? How does it work? What difference does it make? They can't do it. So the first thing is to make sure you really get it, what the principles are, how does it work? And then I give suggestions on things that you can do to change things up. I would say at this point, some of the fastest things you can do is if you ever want or ever need to have a change of emotional state, if you're in a down state or a negative state, and you recognize it, that's the first thing, is to recognize I'm thinking negative stuff and I have the power to change that. And then two is the fastest way to change your thinking state is to move.
Mhm.
And what I recommend is not just get up and move, but get up and go outside where you're connected with the sky and the air and the sun or the clouds and nature,
Mhm.
because we've lost that connection too. And just walk, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Walk, breathe, look at the sky. You will be amazed at how your state changes. The other fastest way is to change, of course, what you're focusing on, the thoughts you're thinking. And so, since gratitude, and you know this very well, gratitude puts us at a higher frequency of vibration. Our body is actually vibrating at a higher level when we're in a state of gratitude. And so I say, hey, let's combine these two and make it a double shot. So when you go outside to move and you're walking, focus on 10 things that you're absolutely grateful for and walk and move and state your gratitudes. It's amazing. You can't do that without having a state shift inside yourself. And so I start every day, every single day, with a walk that I go out as early as 5 to 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes the moon is still out. It is so beautiful. And I welcome the day and I move and I feel the blood going through my body and my limbs. And I breathe the air and I know it clears my mind and gives me a sharper focus. And then I think of my gratitudes and I start my day that way. And how you start your day really sets you up for what kind of day you will have the rest of the hours in the day. For people who are just wanting to start, if you can start with a walk in the morning, that would be fantastic. Even if it's only 5 minutes,
Yeah.
start small. Just make sure you have the right clothing, the right walking shoes that are comfortable and supportive, and go out and greet the day and see what it's all about.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in being out in nature. And there's something about it that grounds us. And I do believe that it can change everything. And I think that's also proven too. Like when you get out into sun and you get out into just surround yourself with nature and things that are alive beyond human beings. I think there's something very grounding about that. You and I both specialize in positive psychology. We're both big believers in positive psychology. And I know it's a cornerstone in your work, it's a cornerstone in my work. And I think a lot of people don't really understand exactly what positive psychology is or don't understand the impact that having a positive mindset can really have on everything from our well-being to our lives to our careers, all of that. So if you have any practical tips that we could share with listeners that they could incorporate into their lives.
Sure. Well, to just clarify for them what positive psychology is, it's an entire field. And it was developed by a wonderful man named Dr. Martin Seligman out of the University of Pennsylvania. And he used to be the president of the American Psychological Association. And during his time there, he started thinking about, in our field of psychology, what we're always focusing on is what makes people depressed, what makes people anxious, so that we can then help them out of that state or lessen that state. He had the wonderful foresight to think of the question, but what makes people happy? I want to know about that. So he developed this whole field at the University of Pennsylvania. One of his first books was all about the power of optimism, thinking positively versus negatively, and how it affects your life, your health, your longevity, your ability to stay healthy versus get ill, your immune system, everything. But positive psychology, I love it because one of the things that I do that makes me a little bit different than the average therapist is because I come from that field, I not only can help people get out of a place of darkness and despair, but I then take them and show them how they can flourish and live their life with much more joy and fulfillment. And that's all about positive psychology, is what makes people flourish.
Yeah. I also studied under Martin Seligman, and I finished my specialization at UPenn last year.
Oh,
So
yeah, good for you.
it's phenomenal. He's a genius in my mind.
Yes, yes.
But when it comes to living a life where you can flourish, right? Once you're able to recognize that you're in, I call it usually a downward spiral, where you're having the negative thoughts and you're not feeling so well, and you want to make the change and you're starting to get out into nature, you're starting to take steps. When it comes to living a life of flourishment, however, are there any tips or suggestions you would give that you would usually give a client or something like that in terms of how to flourish?
For me, because I come from the mind-body connection and my specialized training in wellness, I do workshops on the topic is, what does it mean to really be fit? It's very common in our culture, magazine ads, commercials, you name it. And so when most people think of fit, that word, most women, not all, might think of the word skinny. Oh, I need to be skinny. Most men might think of, I need to have six-pack abs. And what I say is, it has nothing to do with that. My definition of being fit is totally different. First and foremost, it's being able to do all the major movements that our body was designed to do every day. And that includes bending over, picking things up, carrying weighted objects around in your arms and also with your hands, getting up and down off the floor easily, pushing, pulling, jumping, balancing, having a good sense of balance, hanging. We came from beings who were big hangers. And one of the reasons I know we end up with a lot of shoulder impingement now is because we've lessened that space inside our rotator cuff. So I hang from a chin-up bar twice a day to stretch out and align myself. Walking down and up hills easily, that's another area of what defines being fit. And having cardio endurance for being able to walk long distances, or if for some reason you're disabled and you can't walk, to swim distances. And then I go further and say emotionally, that is having a well-balanced life, which includes doing a variety of activities during every week that bring you joy. Having moments of joy, interspurts throughout our week, is critical for our mental health, our emotional health, and our physical health. Also, being fit is having a sense of purpose and direction for your life, giving your unique gift to the world on a daily basis. We all have a unique gift, and it's up to us to identify it, find it, go for it, develop it, and give it back. And then lastly, being emotionally resilient to be able to weather life's challenges on a daily basis. All of that for me is being fit.
Yeah. I absolutely love your definition of fit. And I think that goes back to gratitude as well, because I think
Right.
sometimes we take for granted being fit in the way of everything that you just said, essentially being fit in the way of mental health, mental resilience, being fit in the way of what our bodies can do in terms of getting up and down, in terms of walking up and down hills, in terms of the endurance that our bodies can do. I think we think of fit as having to look a very particular way. And sometimes people may look a certain way, but they're not healthy. And so I think it's a misconception that we've started to develop over time of what the
Yeah.
word fit means. And I love the fact that you've touched on not just physical and not just mental, but also emotional. As we know, emotions are also thoughts and energy, and that can end up affecting your body as well. So it's very holistic. And I love your definition of that. I'm curious. So, would you say that when it comes to being emotionally and mentally fit, is a majority of that based in gratitude? And is that kind of where your happiness stems from?
Well, it's also the body. You know, when you move your body, things happen. It's incredible. The endorphins and the serotonin and all the really wonderful natural chemicals we have in our body that make us feel joyous and lovely and peaceful.
Yeah.
That all gets released if we do enough cardio kinds of movement on a
Mhm.
regular basis. But you gotta understand, I'm dealing with having MS, a progressive disease,
Yeah.
and I have to stay 5 steps ahead of it
Mhm.
every day. I have to put in that extra work. Otherwise, it'll take me right back to where I was. So I have to do all this extra stuff. It's like having another job. So I'm out there hiking every day. I do hours of not just stretching, but conditioning. I have a Versa climber in my home. I have a spinning bike. I am hiking out there with my hiking poles. And I do that 3 times a day. So I'm not saying that people need to do it that much. I'm just saying that's my regime because I'm trying to stay ahead of this illness. But I gotta tell you, Casey, that because of this journey and all these things I put together and been able to find out and reap the benefits of, I am happier. I am so much happier than ever before in my life. Sometimes I can't believe how happy I am. I think I cannot possibly be any happier. I'm just so joyous and happy every single day. And I have so much energy and so much vitality. And it's all from doing this kind of work inside my body and outside my body.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Our birthright is to live a life of happiness and fulfillment. And that's true for every single person.
Wholeheartedly agree. And it varies per person. But given the ups and downs that anybody can
Yeah.
experience on a wellness journey, how do you help your clients stay motivated? Because I think that's the big thing that we all struggle with sometimes, that motivation.
As we all know, to try to implement any changes, stepping outside your comfort zone when you're just so downtrodden and
Mhm.
hopeless and in a place stuck in a place of despair, it's very, very difficult.
Yes.
So, for example, I tell folks who have a hard time with the idea of getting up, going outside, and going for a walk. I remind them, number one, be grateful that you are able to walk. You have a gift and you should be grateful for it and utilize it every day. It's an amazing thing. So I just recommend people start there and have a big enough why. And I tell them if a big voice is saying, nah, I don't want to go for a walk, ask yourself the question, how much do I want to feel good today? How much do I want to have a good day today? And if the answer is, I do a lot, then that's all you need to do is do these simple steps to bring you there. And then, in certain cases, I've even done the other recommendation. I say, if you decide, no, I don't want to have a good day today. I don't care about having a good day today. I don't care about feeling better. That's absolutely your right. And you can not do these things and
Yeah.
just stay home and stay feeling the way you're feeling. And that's your absolute right to do that.
Yeah. Everybody, it's okay to not feel okay sometimes.
Yes,
The goal is just to not stay there.
that's right.
Yeah. As we said in the intro, you were recognized as Trauma Coach of the Year by Best Holistic Life. And I'm just wondering, how does trauma affect overall well-being? And are there strategies that if somebody is dealing with trauma that they can employ to just support their journey in a positive forward movement?
Yeah, and in fact, it reminds me that one of the articles I wrote for Best Holistic Life was about trauma, and people can look that up because most people don't realize that they have had trauma in their life. We used to think of trauma as just you go to war and you have combat experiences or a survivor of a house fire or something like that. No, it's for little traumas too. And little traumas, I called them little t as opposed to capital T. Little t traumas turns out to almost be more powerful sometimes than the big T trauma because little t traumas usually don't happen around a lot of other people. You're singled out. It could be the way a parent treated you, talked to you, or behaved towards you, or a teacher or some significant person in your life that totally changed things for you. Because when we're kids, we absorb everything that comes our way and we believe that it's true. So if the message somehow that we're getting as a child is, I'm worthless, I'm not lovable, I'm not valuable, we will believe it hook, line, and sinker. And one of the things I do with people who come to me for work as a client is I help them to identify and discover what their internal negative self-belief is that they've been carrying around subconsciously for decades. And we work on identifying it, changing it up, and utilizing it so it is not only diminished, but they have a replacement one that goes into that place and leads them to an entirely different destination.
I love that. And actually, you also have a masterclass that is called Your Path to a Happier Life. And I know that it's a holistic approach to happiness, which is
Yeah.
just at the core of my why, why I do what I do. So I absolutely love that topic in general. But can you share what some key elements are within that
Yeah,
masterclass?
absolutely. You could go to my website and click on program, and that masterclass will come right up. You can read about it. What I did was I made a masterclass series, step by step, of how people can transform their life. And I walk them through the process step by step. And we cover all areas, very similar to a lot of what you've heard here. But I walk you through it. We do goal setting, we do so many different things. But it's an amazing program, but it's self-paced, so you can go at your own speed. And I also made it very affordable so that anybody can afford this. And this is your own to keep for the rest of your life and utilize it and get to a better state of being. It's kind of my gift of how to transform your life and have a framework to be able to do it in.
I love that. And so just to be clear, the website is Virginia Oman, and that is OMAN.com. And then all of her contact information will be linked in the show notes along with her social media. So you can find her on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, all the things. We will have all of those links for you in the show notes. Virginia, I thank you so much for being here. Before we go, though, I want to see if there's anything else you would love to share with the Core Happiness audience in terms of living a joyful life and having a really strong and powerful mind-body connection.
I think they're already on their wonderful path by tuning into your podcast. That's a huge first step. Just listening, hearing, thinking about the things you hear on Casey's podcast. Every time that you hear it, think about the things, try utilizing some of the suggestions that are made. But I have to applaud them already for just tuning in and being interested and caring enough about their self and their self-worth and their value to want something better for themselves. So that's fantastic. But I just want to thank you for this opportunity and all the things that you share out to people. because we can all use new ways to expand and be the limitless, incredible human beings that we come here to be and that we are already.
I agree. I think we are all here for that reason, is just to be our full, authentic selves. And I am a firm believer. My father used to always say, when you learn, teach. And I think that we can all learn from each other. I think we can all learn from each other's journey and each other's story. Virginia, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, my best to you and all your listeners.
To our core happiness listeners, Virginia and I would love to hear from you. What was your biggest takeaway from this episode? Did you have any aha moments? How are you going to work to strengthen your mind and body connection? Please feel free to reach out. Wishing you a strong mind-body connection and a flourishing life. Until next time. I thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to rate it or leave a review. If you have any thoughts or questions, I would love to hear from you. You can email podcast@corehappiness.com. For show notes and additional resources, you can visit www.corehappiness.com. As always, please remember, never let anyone diminish your light. Until next time, sending you my love.